someone who was dead 3.5 days and in fact was in the freezer in the morgue and then came back. But there's no documentary evidence for that.
I don't know the answer. I mean, that wasn't really part of my research, so I just don't know. I'm sorry. So, yes, sir.
I'm just curious, being on Wall Street, did you detect people that did inside trading with their surgery?
Repeat the question.
Can you repeat it?
So the question was, I was on Wall Street, did I ever see people who were doing inside trading or pick up my stuff? So I used to, it's a very funny thing. I'd go out and I'd hear management speak, and I'd walk away and I'd say, and people were, we'd all walk out together, and 99.9% of the people would say, wasn't that a great presentation? Isn't that management terrific? I got to go out and buy the stock, and I'd be thinking, there's something wrong here, because there's something wrong with this, I just knew. And so I could, just generally pick up on stuff. And there's actually a very funny story. We have a couple of minutes, so I'll tell you. It's an interesting story. So when I first started out in my career, one of the things they gave me, the company I was working for said, I was going to be the healthcare analyst, and they said the guy who used to be our healthcare analyst left to start up a venture fund, and he left us with all these companies, and some are good and some are bad, but we don't know which are which. That tells you something about Wall Street. So they said your job is to figure out which are the good ones and which are the bad ones. So I said, okay. So one of them was a company that was a very well-known, prestigious company. It was the second investment, the company that I worked for, it was the second investment that the company I worked for had made in one of their portfolios. The investment had been made in 1960. It was sort of a sacred cow. It would be like, I don't know what it would be like today. But the company was run by a guy who said he'd been a Russian prince, okay? And nobody understood what the company did, but that just added to its mystique. So I went to I didn't understand what they did either, but I went to a trade show, and I went around and I talked to everybody at the trade show, and I said, tell me about this company, because I understand their products are proprietary and they're doing something really unique. And every booth I stopped at, the people said, that's not at all true. So I was like, okay. Then I went to an annual meeting for the company, and I just watched them. I just watched the management up on the dais. And I could still see it very clearly. I mean, after the first 5 minutes, I saw there was a problem there. That just, what the CEO was saying and what was really going on were two different things. I was probably at that time, maybe 28, and I came back, and I crunched numbers, I did all the things you're supposed to do, and I recommend they sell this stock. That did not go over real well, because this was their sacred cow, Russian prince, all this stuff. And they said, are you sure about this? And I said, yeah. And not only that, there's another company run by another guy who was kind of, nobody paid attention to this company. And I said, we ought to sell this stock and buy the other one. And they're like, well, why would we buy this other one? And I said, this is what we should do. So I recommended that we sell this one stock, and it was 36, and buy the other stock, and it was 4. And it was controversial, but they listened to me because I had a good record. So nobody could figure out how I did any of these things, but after a while they didn't care. So they listened, and that's what they did. They sold this one and bought the other. And the one that was 36 went to 4, and the one that was 4 went to 36. And the one that was run by the Russian prince, after a time, I don't remember how many years, people were like, we always knew that company was a terrible company. So, I would pick up on stuff. I mean, it was an asset. I didn't realize what it was that I was dealing with. I just, kind of would know, and I would use it as a guide. So, anyway, I'm sorry, that's got nothing to do with near-death experiences, but it's a funny story. So, yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us about your near-death experience?
I did not have one. I had an STE, a spiritually transformative experience. I don't know if you were here at the beginning where I talked about being in an intuition development class in New York. That's what happened to me. So I didn't have an NDE. Yes, ma'am.
You
talked about that class, that intuition class, and then you talked about going to Taos, but did you just leave the investment world cold turkey, or was it gradual? How did you just go from?
It was gradual.
Gradual?
It was gradual. I had I kept, one foot in the investment world for a number of years, and did stuff. And, people still approach me and ask me, and especially now that I'm a psychic, they really want me to do something. So I'm not in that business anymore. I'm not at all interested. So, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to know, if you were going to do a reading, do you choose whatever you're going to talk about, or does the client ask for specifics?
So the question is, when I do a reading, do I choose what we're going to talk about, or does the client choose? So the answer is kind of neither. So sometimes, I always tell people, and for those of you who are having a reading tomorrow, if you do have questions, come with your questions, right? Because I've, done lots of readings where at the end of the reading, we're done, it's an hour, and the person says, but you didn't tell me about Uncle Bill. So, if you have a question that you want to have addressed, bring it. But generally what happens is, so if people have questions, they generally fall into 6 or 7 buckets. Health, finances, career, money, family, relationships, love, life path, okay? So if they have questions, they generally fall into those buckets, but at the same time, a lot of times they'll just say, I don't know, just tell me what comes in. And generally what comes in is whatever's happening in their life. The first thing that comes in is something, that has to do with, let's just, make something up, it has to do with their mother, right? And I tell them and they say, that's really funny because that's exactly what, I came for. Now, a lot of times people say, I don't know why I'm here. All I know is that I looked at your website and something told me I need to come here. And I'm like, okay, let's do the reading and find out. Now, a lot of times, what it is these people have had some kind of experience. They don't know that they had the experience. They just know, like, something funny with their life. And, and here they are. They're sitting down in front of me, and they don't even know why they're sitting in front of me. And, I start to do the reading. Now, one thing is, I can always tell if someone's had an experience. I can always tell. How can I tell? I see auras. Any of you see auras? Yeah, so I see auras and I see chakras, okay? I see them. So when I see auras, I see this field that's kind of close into your body. If you're a normal person, you haven't had an NDE or an STE, you have this aura around your body. But if you've had a spiritually transformative or near-death experience, you have another aura. This is something that I found out when I was doing these readings. These people have another aura around their enclosed body aura. The other aura is white, it's gauzy, it's light-filled, it's full of spirit, it's gratis of the universe. It's a layer of protection from the universe. So they still have their close-in aura, and then they've got this other aura that supersedes it. So when I read for people, I see auras, and if I see that white aura, the next question is, what happened to you? Did this happen? Did that happen? And they're like, oh, let me think about that. Oh, yeah, you're right. So, so a lot of times people will come, as I said, they don't know exactly why they're there, but I see a lot of people, it's the law of attraction. I wrote a book on this, right? So they don't even know that that's what drew them there, but something happened. And I have been reading for lots and lots and lots of people lately who've had these experiences, and people that you would never, ever suspect that they would be candidates, and they're just coming out of the woodwork. So, and I hope I can help them. That's what I'm here for. So, other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is relevant to the idea of having your experiences be a playground for learning or predisposition to, an NDE. But as a healer, someone is doing energy clearing. Are we doing a disservice to people if we don't connect it to some cognitive or spiritual awakening?
I'm not sure I know. I'm not sure I understand the question. If you're a healer and you're doing
energy healing,
right.
and you're helping somebody clear something they're going through that feels uncomfortable, they're in discomfort. If you're not helping them connect it to something disservice.
Okay, so the question is, if I'm doing energy healing on someone and I'm not connecting that to something spiritual, am I doing them a disservice, right? So here's kind of how I look at it. When I do clearing, I work on someone's etheric field, and if I feel that the energy is, kind of lumpy, or I sense it, I sense it, it's not right, I just kind of push it out. That's what I do. That's all I'm doing. I'm just clearing them, okay? My job is not to, I'm not God. It's just my job. I just happen to be able to sense energy and feel it and see it and move it, so that's all I'm doing. They're on a path, everyone's on their own path, and they come to me because I'm part of that path, and maybe after that I don't know what, sometimes I don't know what they do after that. But, I'm supposed to play a role, and I play the limited role that I have. I mean, I have limits, I can read for people and I can manipulate energy, but I'm not there to tell other people what to do or direct. I mean, that's not what I see my role as. So, I mean, I don't know if we're doing a disservice. I don't know the answer to that. And I suspect that there are some healers who are more, what's the word? No, the people who have followers, and they, they act as, gurus. Thank you. I'm not a guru. When my kids were little, they said, I want to grow up and be like you. And I said, I had people who worked for me who said, I want you to be my role model. And I said, you know what? You need to be your own role models. I mean, I could teach you things, but, I think a lot of people are looking, they're seeking, they want something else, they're looking for somebody outside of them, and I can help, but I can't do it all, and I don't think that's my role. So, I don't know, that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but that's how I see it. So, other questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you're doing a reading, does that person have to be do they have to be physically present?
No, when I'm doing a reading, does the person have to be physically present? I don't know when you came in, but I do readings by Skype. So I do long distance readings by Skype, and I need a visual, so I need to be able to see them, at least for a couple minutes at the beginning. After that, it doesn't matter, but I like to see them, and then that's it. So, but they could be 6,000 miles away, and it's like they're right there. It's the same. You're welcome. We have just a couple minutes left. Who has not asked a question? Yes, ma'am.
Other than the simplicity, are there other kind of common messages that people come back with?
Well, of course, the message of the NDE is that, we are more than our body. And, that we're all part of this universal all, universal energy. And, that there is life after death, after near death and life after death. When we're here on Earth, we're just, this is just the armor, the suit that we wear, that houses us. But there's, so much more than what we know. It's just very hard for us to comprehend that principle because, again, we live in a physical world and we believe that everything that happens to us, we see as a result of our senses. We filter things through hearing and seeing and tasting and all of that, and that's reality for most folks, but the real reality lies beyond that. I don't know, there's a lot more information in the book, so, I would say, read the book. There's a lot of information that's not been discussed before in these books, so it's food for thought. But, we don't know for sure. This is a realm that we don't have all the answers. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you, do you consider that you read the Akashic records at all when you give a reading? And do you feel that your readings are somewhat different than what other people do in terms of what people can ask you?
Okay, well, in terms of the Akashic records, this is gonna annoy some people, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So I don't think you can brand energy or, brand the universe. I think I go out there, wherever there is, and you can call it a lot of different things, and that's where I go when I get information. Some people call it the Akashic records. Some people call it, they have different names for it, but to me, we're all going to the same place. So the universe holds all the information and all the answers to everything. And through some fluke, I'm able to get that, pick up that information. I don't believe that, this is just me, but I don't believe that there's like the Library of Congress sitting there and you just pull out different things. I mean, I do believe that in the universe knows all and contains all. And I don't know about other people's readings, so I can't really tell you, we're all different. We all bring our unique personalities and perspectives and backgrounds, and I know I do. So I guess my readings probably are different than other people's, but you see, I'm a very matter-of-fact person, right? I mean, there's no BS with me. That's, I tell it like it is. So, for better and for worse. So, my readings are pretty much straightforward, and I think a lot of people like that. And it's not a question of, me going someplace that other people don't go, because people, a lot of the readings are driven by the client. They ask questions, or it's driven by spirit. I'm just the intermediary. I don't do anything. People say, oh, you did all these things for me. I didn't do anything. I just in the channel. That's it. Should I wrap up?
3 minutes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
How did you know that when someone is reading someone that you're not supposed to discuss negative?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not shown anything negative, so it's not a question of not discussing. But there, a lot of psychics have training, formal training. And one of the rules, there are some rules about being a psychic, and one is you don't tell people they're going to die. I had somebody come to me a few years ago and they said, I just have one question. What's that? Am I going to die when I'm 82? So I said, well, why are you asking? And she said, because I went to a psychic years ago who told me that. How would you like to live with that? So, that's kind of, that's one of the things that you don't do. Yes, back there.
I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned you're a medium and a psychic, and I read a lot of books about mediums and psychics. So how do you switch the departments? If I sit in front of you, do you know what I'm looking for? Because my dead ones will show up, or you just know what you're supposed to do?
So how do I toggle back and forth between being a medium and a psychic? So I'm just completely open when I'm doing a reading. I'm just open, okay? And it's sort of like I go to a stoplight, and then I go through the light, and I'm either, in the medium lane or I'm in the psychic lane. So sometimes people will say, I'd like to try to contact my mom. Now, I always say, don't come to a reading thinking, I want to talk to mom, because it's not up to me. I can't just call them up. It's up to who's ever on the other side if they have a message for you. So mom may not come in, but your third grade teacher may come in. So, but I will always try. And about 50% or so of the time, I can get that person. So, they may say, I'd like to contact Uncle Joe. And so I just kind of go there, don't ask me where there is, and Uncle Joe comes in, and it's just seamless. That's all I could say. It's just seamless. We have 30 seconds. So, yes, ma'am.
Are you able to do a reading for yourself, or would you need to go to somebody else for that?
I don't read for myself. I think that's guaranteed to make me crazy. I may already, I just...
Do you know whether you would have that ability?
I've tried, but if I was a psychic who read tarot cards or something like that, I could probably do it. But the way I do it, it's like I have to sit on both sides of the table, be the client and the reader, and it's really like being a psychiatrist or something, or a doctor. It's not a good idea, So you want somebody who's clinically clear.
Okay. Besides deceased loved ones telling us that they love us, how else can we use spirit guides?
Well, so how else can we use spirit guides aside from the person telling us that they love us? Well, I don't always, okay, so here's one thing. I don't necessarily see those who passed as being our spirit guides. I mean, sometimes I think the guides are other, higher beings. That is a really complicated question, and I don't have time to answer it. I mean, you're getting into the whole area of spirituality and, the practice of spirituality, and there's so many things. We can talk later. Yeah. So thank you very much.